And then it was a very complex time. I mean, because I was there with Achyutananda, and we just heard how there had been 9 initiations of sannyas in Los Angeles. And, for young brahmacharis, this was like, wow, to become a sannyasi, that was like something really super, really wonderful. I guess you'd say now awesome. And so that was what was really, on my mind, about this taking sannyas and what did it all mean. And then Srila Prabhupada called in Achyutananda in the evening when we already were just taking rest. And I didn't have a clue what sannyas was. And I thought, well, maybe Prabhupada's going to give him sannyas. But instead, Prabhupada was chastising him. I could hear him, really raising his voice. And I said, it doesn't sound like he's getting sannyas. And the next thing I knew, I was being called on the carpet. And then Prabhupada was asking me questions, but I didn't understand. He was asking me things which I didn't really know anything about. And then he looked at Devananda, or someone was his secretary, I think, at that time. And he kind of looked and he said, no, he doesn't know anything. He's clean. And then Prabhupada called us kind of all in the room and explained that, because right before this there had been this really serious thing that happened in America where in New Vrindavan the 4 sannyasis had declared that Prabhupada was an avatar and that he should, and Prabhupada had to ban them actually, or exile them from ISKCON because of this situation that was going on. It was very dangerous. And he was very much afraid of that situation. So he explained to us that how this kind of poison of Mayavad had crept into the early ISKCON at that time. He said that somebody had written a letter to Achyutananda, one of his, it was Achyutananda wrote to Brahmananda, a letter that Achyutananda had heard from one of Prabhupada's godbrothers, that Prabhupada wasn't actually doing the preaching, that he was just acting as a kind of an extension of Bhaktisiddhanta, like kind of a media that, but it wasn't actually him that was doing that. It was actually Bhaktisiddhanta who was initiating everybody. Bhaktisiddhanta was doing it. Prabhupada Thakur was doing everything, and Prabhupada was kind of just acting like, nowadays what they call like a riktik, just like acting like some kind of just not doing anything on his own responsibility. It was actually, everybody is a disciple of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, not a disciple of Prabhupada. So somehow Achyutananda wrote some kind of a letter like that to Brahmananda, what he had heard. And then Brahmananda and the other sannyasis, Prabhupada, so then they must have started to speculate that, well, if we're initiated by Prabhupada, we're not Prabhupada's disciple, we're actually Bhaktisiddhanta's disciple. Then, well, we could also be Bhaktivinoda Thakur's disciple because he's just representing Bhaktivinoda, and if you could be Bhaktivinoda, you could actually be the 6 Goswamis, and if you could be the 6 Goswamis, you could actually be Lord Chaitanya's disciple. And then if you could be Lord Chaitanya's Krishna, then we're Krishna's disciple. And then somehow, in this whole logic, then they came to the conclusion that Prabhupada was actually Krishna, therefore. Which was kind of like, I lost the logic there, but that's how it happens. That actually Achyutananda is innocent. He just kind of transmitted this message. And so the Prabhupada was kind of warning us that to be very careful. Any little deviation from the philosophy, any little new kind of introduction, you can create a very huge misconception in the future. I remember one time he got a letter about a devotee, I think it was in Australia, who had a problem and was asked to leave the temple, and then Prabhupada was crying. he said that this devotee done so much service that should go and fall at his feet, beg him to come back, beg him to take up Krishna consciousness again. Why are you throwing him away? At least beg him 3 times, falling at his feet, begging him. After 3 times if you beg him and he still doesn't come, well then what can you do? So Prabhupada was so much concerned about every devotee, that everyone be treated very nice, and people be given every opportunity to try to remain in Krishna consciousness. Of course, at the same time, if they were preaching Mayavad or something, then he had to take a very strong action to protect the others.
Je anilo premadana karuna prachu